Hello my friends, welcome back to Milk and Cookies Total War. I'm Indie Pride, and unfortunately we are in a bit of a dry spell for the Total War Warhammer series. I was obviously not particularly happy about the delays with Norsca, and as we know, we won't be seeing Throg relieve himself on Sigvald's seductive Slaneshi corpse or Wolfric rat battle the dwarfs until May. The Bony Boys of the Desert came out back on January 23rd, I believe, so besides the Steps of Isha that dropped on Valentine's Day, we've gone a long time without any of those warp crack injections of additional content. In May, when Norsca finally makes its long-awaited return, we will also be getting a Lord pack in a similar vein to the King and the Warlord DLC, and some free content to go along with it. I've already done my speculation on what I believe that will be, given the fact that Tretch Craventail has already dropped for the Skaven. A High Elves and Dark Elves themed rivalry makes the most sense, and while there are quite a few permutations CA could go for that make sense from both a lore and gameplay perspective, I feel that the Queen and the Crone, Alariel the Evercucker versus Grandma Saggy Bags is the most likely, leaving the Free LC Lord a Lizardmen character so that every starting race will have 3 Lord choices come May 2018. That is by far the most logical setup in my mind, but that doesn't exactly mean CA is going to go for that, right? But if you're going to make people wait 5 months for new stuff, I think it would be pretty logical to ensure that everyone's happy when the day finally rolls around. And the easiest way to do that is make sure that every race in Total War Warhammer 2 gets something come May 2018. But while we've talked a lot about Legendary Lords and the impact they could have on the Total War Warhammer series, there's an element to Warhammer Fantasy Battle that we haven't talked so much about. Now let's be clear, Lords are what make the setting what it is. The powerful beings who lead armies, slay monsters, conquer empires, and sow terror and confusion in their enemies' ranks. They are the most influential and impactful characters, and CA has been right to make them the focal point upon which this trilogy spins. With that said though, there is a whole host of characters whose actions have left an indelible impact on the Warhammer universe who would undoubtedly make for beneficial additions to this trilogy that I think might end up getting thrown to the wayside, not used whatsoever. And if their beautiful faces never see the light of day, never get to ride high on the hype train for Total War, that would be quite a shame. So this video will focus on some of those forgotten heroes, the legendary heroes of Warhammer Fantasy, you could say, who I'd like to see make it big in some capacity. So, to quickly introduce the concept, in the tabletop source material, special characters are divvied up into Lord or Hero classifications. Lords are typically the most iconic in the setting, the Everchosens, the Karl Franzes, Malekiths, and Tyrions of the world. They are the most powerful and expensive characters in your army, individuals possessing of fearsome martial skill or magical might. Heroes are sometimes lesser characters, not as intrinsically deadly as lords on average, but still worth a score of battle-hardened warriors. Unable to lead armies by themselves, typically, they can still often make the difference between winning and losing a battle. Creative Assembly has thus far been quite reticent to introduce or even discuss the possibility of a legendary hero mechanic. Most likely because they have no desire to give it a label and get people hyped for something they might not actually follow through on. But of course, we've already had 2 or 3 pretty good examples of what a legendary hero mechanic might look like. First, with the King and the Warlord DLC, where the ancestors of Clan Angron grouped up with Belegar Ironhammer to take on Skarsnik in the race for Carrack 8 Peaks, and second, with Bretonnia and the Green Knight. And really, it was with Soulkiller, the Sacred Protector of Peasant Oppression, where we saw what a fully realized legendary hero mechanic could do for the game. A suitably chivalrous player could call for his aid temporarily, and only a limited number of times during a campaign, and he would appear with preset skills and abilities, always mounted on a Spirit Charger Shadow Steed, and he would wreak some serious havoc on the battlefield, be the equal or better of many legendary lords in close quarters combat. Bretonnia was one of the more unique campaigns we've seen thus far in the trilogy, in no small part due to the chivalry and legendary hero mechanics that dropped alongside it. And so I honestly think there are a bunch of hero characters from the source material that could import some really interesting and different mechanics that would dramatically benefit the community from a campaign perspective if they got added. And that is a big if. So let's cover them now and discuss what they could possibly bring to the table if it just so happened that a legendary hero mechanic got put in the game. First off, have you heard of the High Elves? Well, they've got a couple of hero characters who on paper fit quite well into this archetype. Corhill, captain of the White Lions, was a legendary warrior well before he became the personal bodyguard of Phoenix King Finnebar Seafarer. He literally choked the life out of one of the most terrifying lions in history with his bare hands, and was a noble, generous soul beloved by his people and in the good graces of most of the Phoenix court, which by all counts is close to impossible because the politicking of Lothern and High Elf society in general is pretty unreal. I mean, you can step on a speck of dirt wrong in the capital of the High Elves, and it'll be a scandal for a couple centuries at least. So to be in the good graces of most of the Elven court is very, very impressive. But while I did want to mention him, this is a character we are literally never going to see, and that's because Alistair the White Lion is already in the game and brings exactly what you would expect Corhole to bring to the table. A focus on buffing white lions, a beautiful flowing blonde mane, and a skinned feline peeking over his left shoulder. So my vote for a legendary hero for the High Elves would go to Caradhrian, captain of the Phoenix Guard. Caradhrian was a dick in his youth, basically, like most elven nobles are. Again, High Elven intrigue is incredibly brutal. So think about the worst things people have ever said behind each other's backs in high school, and then multiply that by like 100. Some life-ruining stuff is what the Azure gossip and spread rumors about, and he was well into that scene. He was a womanizer, an arrogant, conceited, stuck-up, affluenza-type douche that by all counts should have had no friends and no respect whatsoever. But that was before his pilgrimage to the Shrine of Azurian, the Creator. Now, within this holy shrine, where Tyrion and Teclis actually first fought the greater demon Nakari, there is a holy room called the Chamber of Days. This is one of the most powerful places on the planet, period. On its ancient walls are past, present, and future, etched in words of eternal flame. Everything that has ever happened, and everything that will happen, but has not yet come to pass, is written on its walls, which means the end times, Archaon's invasion, Games Workshop's authors forgetting to tell us what happened to Skarsnik, all of that was written down on the walls of the Chamber of Days, deep within the pyramid of the Shrine of Azurian. And so, being the arrogant douche that he was, Caradhrian decided to waltz on in there and just steal a little glimpse, take a quick look-see at what was crack-a-lackin' down there, and he saw his own death there in the flames. He saw the ending of the world, and upon leaving the Chamber of Days, he never uttered another word. Taking the magical vow of silence that all Phoenix Guard take, and with the Creator's burning mark on his forehead, he rose to the captaincy of the Chosen, and took part in the climactic battle of the Finneval Plains, alongside Tyrion and Teclis. He rides a Frostheart Phoenix named Ashtari, and is blessed by the Mark of Azurian, which causes him to literally explode upon death, and he is exactly the kind of character who would be perfect for a quest chain reward, which upon completion would grant you, say, 3 or 4 units of Phoenix Guard and their captain as well. A very unique character with a unique mount, abilities, and gameplay elements who would obviously focus on tremendously buffing one of your most important late game units in the Phoenix Guard. Now, for the Lizardmen, I've talked about how the Serpent and the Rat will focus on Tenenwan, the Prophet of Sotek, and his rivalry with either Greyseer Thankwall or Ikit Claw. And his inclusion would mean that 3 of the 4 Lizardmen races have been represented as Lord or Hero characters thus far. Saurus with Krokgar, Slann with Mazdamundi, and Skinks with Tenenwan. But that would of course leave Kroxigors hanging high and dry, and frankly, their vanilla implementation kind of leaves them hanging there anyway. And this is where Nakai the Wanderer could be a huge benefit to Lizardmen campaigns. Nakai the Wanderer is pretty much the dinosaur equivalent of the Green Knight. You could literally copy and paste Bretonia's Green Knight mechanics to Nakai, and it wouldn't feel out of place in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you can honestly just read the first 2 sentences of his army book entry and see how many uncanny similarities they have. A revered creature, a powerful jungle spirit made manifest, a mighty protector of the Lizardmen who can appear anytime, anywhere in their time of need. This albino crocodilian badass is ancient. He was around when the Great Catastrophe first struck and chaos poured forth from the Immaterium, and he killed so many of them in the defense of Itza, the first city, that they actually get the heebie-jeebies when they approach the city. Demons, from the warp, who revel in destruction and slaughter and never-ending madness, get scared to the ground where Nakai smashed them by the thousands. Leveling your geomantic web and connecting your starting temple cities to their highest possible level would be a pretty fitting requirement for unlocking access to the Wanderer, who would be one of the coolest additions for the Children of the Old Ones I could possibly think of. Simply getting a character who actually benefits Kroxigors in a substantial, big way, who gets them to a point where they could actually be the focal point of at least one of your armies, that would be really cool, because right now there's really nothing in the game that makes you want to use Kroxigors, and I feel like that would be a great way to differentiate Lizardmen campaigns, add a bit more flavor, and give you that Kroxigor playthrough for the same way that Throg gives you a troll playthrough for Norsca. But while this next character might offer less from a flavor and gameplay perspective, I still feel that Chakax the Eternity Warden deserves some love here, and he definitely does. Greatest of the Temple Guard, he is the last line of defense between the Sleeping Slan Mage Priests and the blades of assassins and warriors sent to murder them. And when you think about it, in the Warhammer setting, there are a lot of factions and a lot of very talented killers who would love to get their hands on those big fat toads. And given how much Lizardmen lore we've covered in the past, and understanding the symbolic and military importance Slan represent as incarnations of the Old Ones themselves, should be obvious that any character who stands vigil over their millennia-long slumber is super important and super powerful. He wields a mace from a fallen star forged by the Old Ones on another planet that renders all enemy magic useless, and carries a key to the Eternity Chamber that slows down time, preventing the lightning-quick blows of Eshin assassins or demon summons from ever landing. In the end times, a whole group of Black 13-style ninjas come at him and stab him with their poisoned blades, to which Chakax just kind of says, "Okay, that tickled," shrugs, and pancakes them into the wall of his chamber. Eternity Warden doesn't give a crap about Eshin blades. Oh, and he makes Temple Guard unbreakable, which would be incredibly useful, at least from a multiplayer perspective. In campaign, you're honestly not going to be seeing your Temple Guard route much anyway, so a little bit less useful there, but still a nice little flavorful addition to the campaign if he ever made it in. But if I had to pick, give me Nakai, please. Seriously, dude is perfect for being introduced alongside a legit legendary hero mechanic. He works just like the Green Knight does, and he rounds out the Lizardmen roster perfectly. Whether he becomes Lord or hero, I do not care. Just give me some white chocolate crocodile, please. It would be very much appreciated. Now, the Dark Elves have a ton of cool hero level characters. Karan Darkhand, captain of the Edgelords, Blackguard is worth a mention, makes Blackguard unbreakable and reflects damage back at his attackers with the Armor of Grief, or Armor of Edge, whichever one you want to go for there. And Lokir Fellheart, kind of a dark horse candidate in the mad scramble for legendary lord status, is as well. But I think the Kraken Lord is a character who would either make the jump to legendary lord status with a heavy black arc focus, and it could be a very interesting campaign, very unique campaign if they decided to go that route, or he won't make it in at all. I don't really see him filling the legendary hero slot, even though he is a hero in the tabletop game. I feel like if he's gonna be in, he's gonna get up jump to legendary lord status and have that black arc focus. But running up against Crone Halibron and Malice Darkblade is not an enviable position for a prospective character to be in. Halibron is virtually guaranteed as the second or third most important person in Dark Elf Society. She is going to be in Total War Warhammer 2, no question about it in my mind, and Malice Darkblade is arguably in the top 10 overall most iconic Warhammer fantasy battle characters of all time, period. So, makes it hard for our boy Lokir Fellheart to make it in. So we'll focus on two others, as I feel like they might be more likely as a legendary hero character if legendary heroes ever make it in. Assassin types are perfect for this particular archetype, by the way. It's one thing that you'll see now and in a second here when we go over to the Skaven. And the reason for that is that the tabletop game had a rule specifically called a killer, not a leader. This represents the fact that a murdering psychopath lying silently in wait, like a snake in the grass, like TJ Dillashaw waiting to pounce on Cody Garbrandt, can't really be commanding an entire army during battle, right? They're kind of doing assassin stuff. They're being sneaky. They're moving around unseen. You can't command an army while you're doing that. And so they can't confer their own leadership to units they hide inside either on the tabletop. But what they can do is eviscerate the crap out of any single target they manage to get their hands on. And Shadowblade, the death that walks unseen, is no different there. He is the chief canine assassin of Crone Halibron, an enormously arrogant and talented individual with a penchant for pain. This is the type of legendary hero you would give Vanguard, Stalk, and a potion of diabolical strength to, double his weapon strength there to 800 plus for a 30-second period when he pops that potion, with the sole purpose of sneaking behind enemy lines, bursting down a high-value target, and murdering the crap out of them. Never going to be the most viable tactics in multiplayer against a player who even kind of knows what they're doing, but absolutely workable and still super satisfying to do it against the AI. And Shadowblade is the type of character you'd want to see completely gut a caster lord in like 4 or 5 attacks if he has that diabolical potion active. And that's not even mentioning what he could do on the campaign map. I imagine with his assassinate and his other spy abilities, he could wreak some serious havoc there. Now you could of course rename any canine assassin you want to, but at the end of the day, there is only one real Shadowblade, and to see him in his fullest glory, we'll need Creative Assembly's help. Now the other legendary hero for the Dark Elves is Talaris Dreadbringer, chosen of Cain and captain of the Executioners. Talaris is the true avatar of the Lord of Murder, even more so than Malekith, and the only reason the two haven't tried killing each other yet is because the Witch King doesn't want to risk fighting the literal incarnation of a god of war, and I don't blame him. Talaris hasn't pushed the issue yet because Cain hasn't told him to. That is the only reason. Dreadbringer is completely off his rocker. As you might imagine, having the whisperings of a blood-crazed lunatic echoing in your ears all day long might make you a bit of a wild man, and over the centuries he has been driven to more and more over-the-top sacrifices, and he was actually so devoted to Cain that when his lord whispered in his ear during the end times, telling him that Tyrion would be forced down the path of drawing the Widowmaker, he allowed himself to be killed just to please his god. After all, one's own death is a paltry thing in the face of Armageddon and the spawning of an avatar on the mortal plane. If the Witch King himself is nervous to fight this dude, you know he's scary. And I mean, on the right side of your screen here, look at that model. Yeah, if I saw that dude in person, I would be running the other way in the blink of an eye. And for Game 2 races, we finally come upon the Skaven, who have already received Tretch Craventail, an up-jump cutthroat, nothing more, who somehow weaseled his way into Legendary Lord status. And although this character absolutely should not be a Legendary Lord, this next one, just like Shadowblade on both the battlefield and the campaign map, this ninja rodent could be a god amongst mortals, striking from the shadows where few dare tread. Deathmaster Sniksh, chief assassin of Clan Eshin, and second only to Night Lord Sneak, he is responsible for many of the wildest kills and acts of sabotage in Skavendom's history and the world at large. In what is surely one of the biggest Dawi get the book moments in Warhammer history, he assassinated our beloved Thorgrim Grudgebearer and took his head back to the Council of 13. Certainly does not have to be your favorite part of the army books or novels, but the fact that the premier vermin lords and most powerful characters in the Under Empire all entrusted him with that mission, and he succeeded in killing the most important Dawi in the history of Dawi, tells you a lot about Snitch and what he is capable of doing. Even if you want to discount end times completely, his resume is super long and very impressive, from the Great Fire of Lothern to the deaths of countless Altdorf nobles and battle wizards to everything in between, and that's just the stuff we know about. He has silently murdered high-ranking members of pretty much every faction on the planet, and would be the perfect reward for someone to put a heavy emphasis on Clan Eshin units and assassinations during their Skaven campaigns. Like Shadowblade, a stealthy killer, not a leader, with crazy initiative and overwhelming bursts of DPS, but very squishy and susceptible to being cut down if caught off guard and surrounded by enemies. But why do we have to stop there? The Vamps got Krell, there are tons of other iconic hero characters that deserve the spotlight, and the Empire needs some loving as well. If there's one thing people have been complaining about recently, or, well, not even recently, pretty much since the game came out, they've been saying Empire needs more love. So let's get Ludwig Schwarzhelm, the Emperor's champion. Let's get Luther Huss, Prophet of Sigmar. Let's get Kurt Helborg, Reichsmarshal of the Empire and Grandmaster of the Reichsguard Knights, and many, many more. There are a ton of Lord and hero level characters that can get put in the game that aren't there yet, and we want to see them. We want to see them all. Each of these characters would obviously need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, find a flavorful and logical way to implement them, but quite a few of them bring something unique to the table that would add some pretty nice gameplay elements and variety to the current campaigns, and give us characters that don't need to just lead armies, right? That have a bit more flexibility when it comes to the campaign map and how we decide to utilize them than just say, be a lord and be stuck in leading armies and that's all they can actually do. When you've got a legendary hero character, you do have more flexibility on the campaign map with what you want to actually do with them. In the meantime, Mixu has some very cool mods in the Steam Workshop that will allow you to play as some of these characters, so I do recommend you guys go check those out, and I might even do some videos on those soon while we wait oh so patiently for Norsca. But let me know in the comment section, are legendary heroes something you'd want to see more of going forward, or do you feel that that kind of thing should be left to modders while CA focuses on the bigger picture? Which characters would you want to see if CA decides to go with the legendary hero idea? And which ones would like stick out the most to you? What would you really want to see brought to life on the big screen or PC screen, as it were? Hope you guys enjoyed the video and these look at legendary hero characters. Thank you all for watching. Indie Pride, signing out for now.